Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy reporting live from my little cabin in the woods. I just got home today. I've had a full art weekend with the theater arts and with my friend's exhibition. But I just want to tell you, we're going to be discussing Beasts of the Southern Wild. So I'm introducing a new character to our show. I have my little pet tiger, and he is telling you just how much he loved this. This is my own little beast. So he will be joining us to give us this roar for all the movies that we adore. So anyway, I haven't named him yet. Maybe our viewership can come up with a name for our little roaring tiger. But it's the year of the tiger. So I thought I'd bring him into the play because we had all these fantabulous beasts in this film. And I know you've watched it because you told me. This is Ruthie Landis, who's an author from Chicago. She has quite the background in theater arts herself, with television and commercials and theater. And so what was your take on it?
Oh, well, first, I need to show you where I am. I am looking at water right now myself.
I almost thought about going out on my porch and doing it, but it's already getting dark and the bugs are biting.
I know I'm in a screened-in porch at this little cottage that I come to when I need to write. And so I'm by the water. And so I always feel more creative by the water. So it really, I love the water so much that I so understand this tribe who this is their life, is the water.
What this movie does is, and we both do this because you're out in your garden, I'm out in the woods. We're all a part of the universe. And when you go out into nature and you're actually in it, and I just watched an interview with the director. His name's Ben Zetlin. And he said that when he was a child and he was outside, before he recognized there's cities and everything, he goes, I felt like this empowering place that I was part of something bigger than myself. And I think at this time, it's the perfect time to watch this film. Yeah. Because it's all about these people that live in the bathtub. They live down there in New Orleans where all the, Katrina and Lake Pontchartrain, all that just filled with water. But it's their home. And the important thing is that I saw Oprah Winfrey ask the little girl, what does that mean to you? And she said, well, there's something important when people say they just want to go home, because home is the place where you were raised. And it doesn't matter whether it was like me, the Flint Hills of Kansas, or like you, if were you born in New York?
No, I wasn't.
You were born.
I don't want to go home. I don't think my home where I was born was my home. It wasn't my home.
Well, I don't feel a part of it now, but when I was a kid, it was my home. And I understand that feeling. And it was interesting because the director, her name's Quinvon Shanae Wallace. She was the youngest.
Yeah, not the director, the little girl.
The little girl's name. She was the youngest actress to ever be nominated for an Academy Award. And just like he said, she has this ability in her quietness. When she was still, it was the most powerful thing you have ever seen in your life. And I watched interviews with the man who played her father. He was a New Orleans baker, and he played Wink, her father, and Dwight Henry. And he said that he was kind of in awe of just the look in her face when she'd do these scenes. He goes, it made him a more powerful actor too. But it's a powerful film. And I think I felt it even more now after going through COVID than I did when I watched it first after going through Katrina.
Yeah, it was 10 years ago when they made it, 2012. And what I didn't realize then, and then after researching it now, and I want to just read this, So there are tribes down there. And, when Katrina came and there was all these billions of dollars, to help the people that were affected by Katrina, these people that live in the bathtub, this is real.
Yeah, it's
Like
a
the
real
story
place.
is fictional based on the book, but it's based on reality. It's just the story was sort of fictionalized and made a story about it. But none of those people who are tribal people, ancient, like longtime tribal Native American people, because they didn't have enough documentation, because you see where they live, they wouldn't have the documentation. They didn't get any help, any money help. And then somebody came out and did a review and kind of tore up the film, saying that Hush Puppy was like this anarchist and the father were the anarchist, instead of looking at this was their lifeblood. So I just want to read this. In pop culture, poverty in America is commonly portrayed as unnecessarily hopeless or bleak. A protagonist's origins, when humble, are almost exclusively presented as something to escape from, an obstacle on her or his road to self-fulfillment. Zeitlin, the director, strongly resists this portrayal. While he doesn't gloss over the bleaker aspects of Beast's running down setting, he certainly places them in context. Hush Puppy lives with her father, who is often drunk, abusive, or neglectful, but who cares for her deeply. The closest thing she has to a maternal figure is her school teacher, an erratic woman who imparts the values of the bathtub to her captivated classroom. This is the most important thing, she tells a group of attentive pupils in one of Beast's few heavy-handed moments, that you all learn to take care of the things that are smaller and sweeter than you.
Absolutely.
And that was in the film. And then that the little girl said, when interviewed at 5 years old, well, what's important to you, in the context of what happens in the film. And she says, I always just have to brush my teeth.
Wow. I'm telling you this, she's 11 now.
Well, no, if she was 5 then, it was
Yeah.
10 years ago, 15.
Oh gosh, yeah, she's a little older than that. Yeah. And what I found out too is, I don't know if you remember the 12-year-old that was one of the children, another little African American girl.
But I don't think they consider themselves African American.
No, they're American.
They're tribal.
Tribal.
Some of them, I suppose, were brought over, but I do want to just also say, in relationship to that, I leapt to the fact that they had been slaves brought over, but they're saying, in everything I've read about it, that no, they are a tribe, just like it, and then they have a name I can't pronounce, but they are a tribe that were here forever, and then the other piece to it is that kitty cat. The other
trying to
piece
get my attention. I've been gone, so go on.
is that is how everyone lived there in the bathtub, no matter what their nationality was. There were plenty of Caucasian people. There probably were African American. There probably, maybe there were some transplant, but there were the tribal people. That teacher was a tribal woman, and there was no racism among them. Did you notice that? They were just all in the bathtub together,
right,
and living that life together. And it was really the bureaucracy. They just didn't care about them. They wanted them out, and they wanted them to assimilate, with the world.
Well, we all learned from the horrible conditions of the Super Bowl, the Superdome down in New Orleans. They took all the people, and the ones that couldn't get out, they put them in there with no food, no toilets, no, and it was like end of the world. They couldn't get out. It was horrible. And when I went down to New Orleans a year after it happened, because it happened on my birthday, and my birthday weekend, and I went down a year later on my 50th birthday to see. I wanted to see. And as we're driving in with my friends that lived in New Orleans, they told us that we passed a building, and they said, they have, it was over 100, maybe 200 people in this refrigerated warehouse. They still didn't know who they were from the Katrina. And that just has haunted me. And my brother-in-law, when he was down there doing insurance adjusting, said there was a man dead in the street the entire time they were there. Nobody ever came and got him. And every day it was worse and worse and worse. And they were staying in the quarter. And I just think we think about all these third world country conditions, but we really need to get out and see and be amongst the people of not only the United States, of the world, just to see that, that's one of the reasons why I want to go to India. I don't want to go to India to find myself. I want to see humanity. I want to see just exactly how billions of people can live one space. We think we've got it tough. We've been locked down for all this time. And I am so appreciative now that I've gotten out a little bit, but people are still getting COVIDs. People are still dealing with some really tough issues. And this movie just kind of brought back kind of like this feeling that we need to remember it's not about us, it's about all of us together. And I can't think of a better film to watch. I remember there was a little controversy about these huge, lost mythical beasts, roaming, but to me, it was a movie about how a people empowered themselves to say, we have a voice and we're important. And just because we don't have, political backup or money or status or whatever, everybody should be treated, in the way they want to be treated, And
Well, one other thing that really struck me too, with global warming and
yeah,
all these things, we're so dependent on technology and everything. And these people knew how to live in floods, in everything. They didn't have telephones. They didn't have anything. He just got in, I don't even know where he got his gasoline for his little putter boat that she burnt him up in when he died. But I looked at it and I went, do you remember those Mad Max movies about
yeah.
after apocalyptic and after everything, and how people had to pick up junk? They had to live, on nothing, on air. And I thought to myself while I was watching it, we sit and we judge people like this, and why haven't they modernized and all this stuff? But with all of these hurricanes and all of the craziness of all kinds that are going on in the world of COVID and the violence and everything, it is going to be people like them, people in the rainforests, in Peru, in the indigenous tribes all around the world that have not modernized, that I think would survive, would be the people that
Oh,
survive.
absolutely. I mean, I'm really thankful that, my grandfather taught me how to fish. I'm really thankful that I know how to shoot a bow and arrow. And they had this women of the woods where you learned how to do all these survival things. And it was fascinating. And I've been on, went on a walk where we learned what to eat, what indigenous plants you can eat. And I just think, if we would just get back to nature, get outside, see what, I mean, the little girl, there was a scene where a coyote had been attacked or something, it's pretty gross. But she said, well, you got to get down there and look at it and face it. And I can remember when my grandfather birthed a calf and it was stillborn, he just broke the sack and threw it up in the back of the truck with us. And I just stood there and stared at it. But, I really looked at it because I thought there was something wrong and it died. And, he didn't try to, hide it from us, throw a tarp over it.
It's
He made
life. It's
yeah,
life.
we wrote,
This morning, there was a little fawn that was blind and was
oh,
wandering around. And apparently her mom had been roadkill. And they took, somebody in this little other cottage right next to mine, I guess, took it in. And then it probably wasn't going to survive. So they lifted it back up and brought it back into the woods. And what will be, that is its outcome. But we might go, oh my gosh, but it was real. It's just, this is life. And I, I go to the grocery store, right? And that's where I hunt, or that's where
yeah.
that's where I hunt, or that's where I,
What if
harvest.
there isn't a grocery store anymore?
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying to you.
And I think that's why so many people are moving out of the cities, because like where I live, it's fairly easy to, I mean, I went without, during the ice storm, I went without 3 weeks without running water, and my pipes
I know
froze.
you did.
I learned, I just melted snow, and
know.
and it's just, I learned how to do it. It wasn't,
Did you have electricity?
it was off and on. But
So
my, I
then
think
when
my
you
air
could heat
conditioner
it
went,
up, when
huh?
you would just take the snow and you'd put it in a pot and you'd heat it up on your
I
stove.
heated up on the stove, and then the electricity went off. It was going off and on. It would go off. So I have a battery that you can hook up a hot pot to and heat up water. And I was smart enough that I still have my bathtub, my guest bathtub, filled with gallons of water, just in case something like this happens again, because I thought I'm never going to get in that position.
Brilliant. That's so smart.
And so every once in a while I use them and replace them. But the thing about it is, until it happens to you, you don't realize. But seriously, now it's to the point where, how do you get prescriptions? How do you get, medical care? How do you get, what if you have allergies or asthma, or, there's a lot of things to think about. But this man, he knew what was wrong with him, and he was trying to protect his daughter, is trying to be the man, and she said that her favorite scene in the whole movie was when they brought in that load of shrimp with the crab, and he said, break it, break it. And she said, and she said, and then she jumped up on the table, and it was just a very, but I really want to follow this kid, because she was very, very strong. She's like even beyond Scout in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh yeah.
Even beyond the children in Conrack, The Water is Wide, the Pat
Well,
Conroy
you know
movie.
why, Kathy? Think about it. Scout, it was somebody else narrating, right? She had her scenes that she played off of, and she would narrate, could read the words, she wasn't acting during the narration. Plus, then there was her older self, but she was reacting off of Gregory Peck, she was reacting off of these wonderful other people. This little girl held this entire film. I mean, yes, she had her scenes with her dad, but man, it was her in close up. It was her calculating and figuring everything out. She was extraordinary. She was extraordinary and untainted. There was nothing performy about her.
No, and he
She's
couldn't
just
read his
real.
script, so he had to sit down with her. And he was talking about it. He said he'd ask her about things, and she goes, "That isn't the way I see it." And he goes, "How would you see it?" And he goes, "She'd just say something so brilliant. I was typing as fast as I could, and I was changing literally the script to fit her perspective." And I think that's why it ran so true.
Oh, it was so true. It was
It
so
was,
true.
it's
And
really
that's in that moment when he would say, show your guns, show your guns. And she showed her strong little arms. Oh my goodness. Who
Well,
was she gonna
I was
grow up?
going to tell you about the little 12-year-old girl that, she was 4 or 5, yeah, four when she tried out, and 5 when she made the film. But this other little girl, her name was Joshnal Alexander, was 12, and she was a little bit older. And um, she in November was killed in a shooting
Oh
in
no.
in a guy's car. They didn't mean to shoot her, they meant to shoot him.
Oh,
And she's beautiful little girl. And what we forget about when we see children in films is they have lives that they have to go back to. And she was a hostess in a restaurant, in a relationship, but she had a 1-year-old daughter, and her name was, oh gosh, it was such a pretty name. I wrote it down. I can't read my writing, but she had a 1-year-old daughter. She was a beautiful little girl, and it was just the most shocking thing. That was just in November. It was like, it must have been Thanksgiving weekend.
another shooting,
And
another
she's
shooting.
22, and she's gone. I mean, her life is just beginning. And then I saw there was another shooting today. I'm just going,
In the,
when are we going to say, okay, you guys, it's really enough? I mean,
you notice these people did not have guns.
well,
The only thing they did was when it was gonna, just kill them, they took that crocodile and cut open the crocodile and put explosives in it and put it over by the dam, right? So that they could blow out the dam and let some of the water out.
right.
And that was you didn't see
No,
any other violence among them. They just lived,
I didn't think that way. And what is happening, I think now, is people are seeing their notoriety that each one of these things are getting. They're getting coverage of the news, and they're becoming famous. And kids just don't think about future. They just think about the now. And so I think it's just all these things are just happening now, just boom, 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 because they're like piggybacking off of it. That, there's a term for it on serial killers who mimic other serial killers.
Yeah, copycats.
Copycat. Yeah, copycat. And I think here we are, we've got these people, they weren't hurting anybody. They were
nobody, they weren't bothering anybody. And they were just living off of the water. They ate the crab and the shrimp raw. They didn't even cook it up much of the time, but they were fine. They survived. Yeah, he got sick, and he was an alcoholic. Now I need to ask you something about the story.
Yeah.
So the mama went away.
I knew that's what you're going to ask me. Go ahead.
All right. Was the lady on that
her mother
bar saloon ship that she danced with her and she held her, was that her mother, do you think?
Well, that I watched a thing on this, and it said,
oh, did you really? Because
yes, I did. It's on YouTube, and I watched a thing on it, and it said the director decided to leave it up to the viewer. But in my opinion, it was
her mother.
And she still, even though she didn't even recognize her own child, she was still trying to mother her. And I thought it was probably one of the most powerful scenes. She goes,
oh my God.
Because when she said, I can count on my, 2 fingers, the only times I've been lifted in my life.
Yes.
When she was born. And then.
I know. And I felt that she picked her up.
It really touched me because my sisters and I were all born so close together. that I don't remember anybody ever holding me, because they always, I was oldest, they put me down and say, you know, we got other little ones we got to hold. And it was really hard for me because all I wanted to do was crawl up in a lap, and I didn't get to do it ever, ever. And so when she said that, I can count the times when I've been lifted. I can't remember any time when I was lifted. I can't remember when I was born. I've seen pictures with, me as a baby, but I'm in a high chair, or, and even the picture when I'm itty bitty, I'm standing. My mother's squatting down, but I'm standing. I haven't ever seen any pictures of me as a baby where I'm being held, ever. And I just think, I know how that must have felt to her, having that woman dance with her, and the way all those women were dancing with those little children.
Yes, they all were. It was almost as if, I got the feeling that they went away, they left, they didn't want to be in the bathtub any, more, they couldn't handle it. And so where would they go? Where would those women go? So there was this saloon,
Floating
brothel kind of place, right on the water. And nobody wanted to hurt those children. I thought, are they going to get kidnapped? There was that fear.
Well, now that's a big fear. But I don't know.
So the reason why I kind of thought it was her was because, or that the woman had a child she had left behind, one or the other. It was either a surrogate child, like the little girl was her surrogate child, or it was her child.
Well, I remember there were little glimpses of her, and it could have been, I could go back again and look and see. But
well, yes, no, when he was talking about how beautiful the mother was, it looked just like that woman.
I
really,
that too.
They never did a close up of her face when he described the when he was falling in love with the mother, but they showed her from the back or a little bit from the side. And I thought
it was played by the same actress, but they left it up to the audience. And I honestly, sometimes, I went to see the new Downton Abbey film.
Me too.
I loved it.
Me too. Me too.
I cried, and I
cried so hard at the end of the movie.
It was terrible. It was really embarrassing. God. We all did. There were 400 of us.
Talk about the difference between this movie and Downton Abbey. Oh my God.
It was, but the guy who did it, what's his name?
Fellows, Julian Fellows.
Yeah. The guy who did it, he knew how to wrap everything up neatly. So perfectly. The guy that we hated, the butler that was just conniving and everything, he had a happy ending, and I was really happy about it. But it was like the difference between night and day, because everything was wrapped up, and you're just filled. At the same point, the movie I'll remember longer will be Beast of the Southern Wild.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's like To Kill a Mockingbird. It haunts you, and I am invested in that little girl now. And I'm going to be, and especially since I got on there and was just kind of going down that rabbit hole and found out that other little girl was already died at 22. Can you imagine? And she was hostessing in several restaurants, so she never really got any more films. Everybody thinks,
well, do you think this little girl that was nominated for an Academy Award?
She is.
She's been.
I'm talking about the one that was shot.
No, but what has she gotten other films?
She was in that 12 years of, that was nominated for the Academy Award.
12 Years a Slave?
She was in that. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And she said she's getting lots, but her mother sounds brilliant because she's very careful. But the little girl she's honest. Like, I saw an interview with Drew Barrymore when she was a child, and she was on Johnny Carson. She's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was around the time of, E.T. And she said, this would be a lot simpler. And I could just see her little cute face. She said to Johnny Carson, if I could take these teeth out. And he goes, what do you mean? And she pulls off this flipper. They have flippers for children because her front teeth were missing. So when she did television and interviews, they'd have her put this flipper thing in. And he got so tickled. She goes, see how much better I can talk. And I thought, what a world that we have to put false teeth in children's mouth when they lose their baby teeth. But she was so honest, and some people will say, well, she was precocious. No, she was just telling the truth. It's hard for me to talk with these in my mouth. And, she always had kind of a little bit of a baby talk anyway. And then to have that in, and I thought, I love it when they just let them share their honesty, because children's honesty, I went to a kindergarten class one time, and I was reading as a cowgirl in something. And this little boy turned to me after it's over. And I go, anybody have any questions? He goes, no, I just have a comment. I said, oh, what's the comment? And he goes, how come you're so fat? And I go, that's a really good question, because I would like to know myself. But I didn't get mad at him. He was just honest. But it was so funny. And then later on, when I was with my Girl Scouts, I had them at a swimming party. And so now I don't, not for sure. And they say, oh, Mrs. P, you're fat. And I go, well, I've been told that before. And they looked at me funny. And they said, fat, P-H-A-T. That's a cool thing, Miss P. I go, what? So all those years, that little boy says, how come you're so fat? I don't know if he meant fat or P-H-A-T, but I think we need to listen to children, because they're honest. I heard a joke one time where some little boy kept saying, they thought he was saying sex, but he was talking about a saxophone. Just because, we don't listen. We just kind of, what? If you just ask them to explain, they'll tell you. I should have said, well, what do you mean by that? And he could have said, well, you're overweight, or he could have said, no, it was a real popular phrase I never heard it before. Had you heard that?
It was kind of with the hip hop.
Yeah, it was that real, and I'd never heard it before, but I was so, I thought, God, I just and I'd lost all this weight. She goes, no, you look good.
You look good. She wasn't being negative. Can I ask you a question? Come back to the bees. Okay, so one was about the mother. Okay, then the other question I wondered, how the dad said that old guy was good. He said, he'll be your daddy.
Oh, you mean the real old guy?
The old barkeeper guy, bartender guy. He says he's going to be your daddy. I just wondered, again, it's a story. So, but, do you think that the teacher or who was going to watch out for her? And then the other piece to that is.
Now you think about it. Who did they ever hurt? The only people they were hurting were themselves, just like the dad. They were drinking because of, life situations or whatever, but they never did any harm. In fact, it was a place of solace for everybody to go and be themselves.
So I was just wondering, do you think that the bureaucracy on the other side of the bathtub
would have taken her away? I don't think they would after what happened. I don't think so. I think they would just leave them alone. I think they're all back there just right where they were before. And
is that bathtub still there?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. There are pockets everywhere in this country where you have that, even in Kansas. Really? I mean, I had a girl that lived out on a farm, and she came to school, and I didn't know what to think about her. She was like big. I mean, she was like Swedish or Norwegian, blonde, blue-eyed, but she was like muscular. She probably worked in the farm, but she wore these long dresses with work boots, and she had her hair bobby pinned into finger waves. I mean, this is the 69 going into the 70s. And the kids made fun of her, and I never made fun of her. I was fascinated by her because I thought, where did this girl come from? And, she came into town to go to school because they closed the country schools and then she was bused into town. But she never made it to high school. She was there in junior high, and then I never saw her again. And I bet she just didn't go to school. But there's people like this everywhere. But I don't think people look. They aren't
Well,
really.
they don't look, and they certainly judge. That is for sure.
And that's why all these books that are coming out, like the book Woman of about the blue people, about
Yeah.
the book by Kimberly Brock, about the dares, and these people that came over and they disappeared. 115 of them disappeared. Nobody knew what happened to them. I think these stories are coming to light, and some of them are always going to remain a mystery, but I think it's making people pay attention to the story. And maybe one person at a time will stop judging and start going, wow, I mean, could you catch a cat? Would you even put your hands into a alligator infested waters to noodle for a fish? They do that. They noodle.
Well, they did it in the movie.
I know. And
he told her, put your hand in, and then he grabbed and he got a fish, and by the time she was 5 years old, but she was so self-sufficient.
oh yeah.
And yes, she was missing the softer side. And that scene when you were talking about the being held. So right near the end, when he said to her, climb into bed with me. And she kept listening to his heart, because on the thing it would say, listening for the heartbeat.
I'll tear up, because he said, don't cry. And she goes, I won't cry. And they're both crying. And I'm just like, and then, all through the very beginning scene with the birds, and she's listening to the heartbeat. She listened to the crab. She's listening, because everything on this planet
is alive,
has a heartbeat, has the trees, it used to be people didn't think trees had feelings and
well, now they know very different about that. There's all this research how in forests, if there's a tree in a forest that isn't even of the same species and it's needing minerals or needing something, the other trees in the forest, even though it's not of the same species, sends down through the roots and through the fungi and if they feed that tree that isn't even of them, and they don't care.
I've always felt, since I moved in this, I have 2 lots of woods. I've always felt, since I've lived here, that all these trees have just kind of been protecting me, and
they're the tree people.
I've seen 2 trees fall right in front of my eyes, but they fell parallel to my house and to my studio. They just fell parallel, and I was so stunned. And this sounds really crazy, but I couldn't even have somebody come and cut it up and take it away, because I said, this is where it was born and raised. I'm leaving it there. I left them.
Oh, I would too. And then what happens? They become nurse. Well, they become nurse trees, and other trees grow up out of them, and other insects and animals live in them, and fungus, and the mushrooms grow up out of them.
Well, they become homes for other animals and creatures.
That's what I'm saying.
And that's why, I moved here, is I didn't want to mow. I didn't want to garden. I wanted the woods to go back, because this was all bottomlands, and they came in and they didn't really clear cut it. They just cut out patches to put the houses in. But they cut out a patch to put in the circle driveway. And I think, why didn't you just leave it woods? I would have. And when you cut out some, that lets the wind come in and knock them down.
I know.
It's better off to just leave them all thick, because if they fall, they kind of.
They were probably figuring where you're going to park.
Hike in. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not that far from the road. I just said a lot of people do. But I'm a big nature lover, and I don't touch anything out there. I will every once in a while have my wars with the fire ants because they bite and the wasps.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that because, in this little screened-in porch here, um, I don't know where they're getting in, but there's a lot of bees and wasps getting in, which they never have before. This is my 5th time that I've rented this little place. And I can't kill them. So I take a Kleenex and I come up behind them and I grab it and then I let them fly outside. But they're these things called they're called mingies or midgies, and
Oh,
they're
there are those little, yeah.
oh God, and they just piles of them dead all over the place. And when they come at me, I have a killer instinct in me, and
Well, I'm allergic. And so it's either me or, and it's battle of the survival.
I say to them, I'm so sorry to do this to you, but it's me or you. And then in my new book, I write about it and I go, because it's a shadow in me. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want to, I judge everybody else that's got a killer instinct, but maybe I let the bees out, but then I have a certain place where I go, no, I'm going to smash those things. And then I tell the story about my friend Joy, and she was in India, which she went to every year for 2 months. And she was studying with a great spiritual teacher whose name I will not say, because they watched this great spiritual teacher go like this, smashed the bug. And everybody watching the spiritual teacher just goes like that. And then she looks at them and she goes, back to God.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Back to,
I had
back to God.
We were outside the stage door waiting for Lainey to come out, and they go, oh my God, look, it's one of those cockroaches. And it was right at my foot, and I just stepped on. Everybody went, ah! And I go, what is the big deal? They go, you killed it. I go, it was a cockroach. And I go, I'm sorry, but those things.
Now you have a new line. Back to God.
Back to God. I wish I'd had it last night, because they all looked at me like they were horrified that I killed this bug. But if you've ever lived in the woods, they love pine trees and they try to get under the door. And they don't get under my door. I will tell you, there's
no, because you're just sending them back to God. That's all.
I'm sending back away from my door. I don't know what happens. If they come in, they're not going to live. I'm going to tell you. But that's survival of the fittest, man. It's just like back in the days when they had those saber-toothed tigers, and they were chopping.
So that's the last piece. That's the last piece I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
So here the teacher says to the kids about the aurochs.
Yeah.
And then
we're all meat.
And then she said, and then the little girl, every time she was afraid, she'd have this sort of, what is it, like waking dream, lucid dream, that the aurochs were coming, they were going to get. And then when was that moment when she faced them off and they all bowed down to her? They knelt down to her.
Because she had found her power. Her power was in the belief in herself. And that's what her father gave her before he left. I mean, the fact that she lit the torch on, he said, when I die, put me in a boat and send me out on the water. And she did. Remind me of India, because that's what they
do it in the Ganges.
And everybody thinks that you're not going to bury him. And I go, I think it's actually, ashes to ashes, back to the earth. I think it's, I don't know.
It's beautiful, and they throw flowers, beautiful flowers in the water. Yeah, yep. And they accept that this is just temporary, like that.
And while they're doing that, you've got children playing down here in the water, playing, and another woman up here doing her wash. Yep. It's just like, it makes you realize that, did you wash your hands before you went to the bathroom? You know, when you came out of the bathroom, I'm thinking, oh my God, these people are dealing with, you know, unbelievable.
Well, you know, they don't use toilet paper there
Oh yeah.
in India. You know that.
I know a lot of stuff about that. And I don't.
We'll talk about that. Not on this show. Not on this show.
After a few trips of mine to some very interesting bathrooms in
Well,
France
you know,
and Greece.
and,
Italy.
and
I didn't know.
let me tell you, China, honey, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. Someday we'll have a
I'll
private.
have to tell you about my friend that went to do the nets, mosquito nets in Africa, where they had to go. And I go, oh my God, I don't think I could do that. And she goes, I have never been so humiliated and embarrassed in my life. And oh, I got to tell you, because it's just so crazy.
Okay.
There's nothing where they're at. There's nothing, but there was this thatched roof thing on a concrete pad. And you just go in and just go on the concrete pad.
See,
They,
my husband lived in Africa for 2 years,
they don't
and
wash
they
it
just had a
off.
big hole. No, he had a big hole.
This is just she said it was just a concrete slab. And while she was sick, she was having, you know,
Yes.
whatever they call it. And she said, I was sick and I was cramping. And all of a sudden I looked next to me and there's another man in the same position with the same problem. That's a native. And she goes, he looks at me and he just,
Oh no! And do they hose it down?
no, it just kind of disintegrates or bugs get it, or it's
I
just,
mean, my husband had an outhouse with a big hole deep in it. They have those in China too, but they have other
well, my
things.
grandparents had outhouses and half my family in Kansas.
Yeah. And
They
you
used
just
them
put
until
your
I was
foot on either side of it and whatever. Anyway, they didn't this director chose not to address that particular situation.
well,
He didn't he wanted to stick with the story, and he did not like want to drag them down. It was clear what they lived in. And when she set that fire to her house,
she
oh my,
did. She was angry and she was hungry and she burnt that on purpose. I think it was cat food that she mixed in with that glop.
it was cat food, honey. And it was cat food, and she made a stew of the cat food. But that was what it was, that she said, why can't I live in the house with you? He said, you have your house, I have my house. And she burnt down her house.
So she could
Oh,
stay. He
mhm.
didn't expect that. But she wasn't afraid of anything. I mean, she could run pretty fast. But it's very,
Anyway, this was a beautiful film and very timely, and in its own strange way, hopeful for mankind. I don't know, or humankind. I don't know whether it's going to be the modernized world that is what's left after a certain kind of culling, which is happening right now. There is a culling. People are dying of all kinds of things. And but it will be these people that live closest to the earth, that because the earth will go on.
oh, I've always said nature wins every time. We think we can do away with it. We think we can, if we start messing with the climate too much, we're gone. But the planet will still be here.
And you know what I think about us? I know this is horrible, but it goes with the film, because again, it's like looking down on these people, right? But these people did not destroy their host. And if you think about what we do, we're like a cancer. You know, I always thought about cancer. It's a very powerful thing and it can kill you, but how smart is it if it kills its host? If it kills its
Like
environment.
nuclear, you know, reactors and things. If it kills us, then what good is it saving us energy? I just think we need to be mindful. But you know, there's a scene where they're looking across the levee at the smokestacks and all that horrible mess. And if you've
Filth.
ever driven down, if you've ever been to South, well, they call it East Texas, but down around Beaumont, and it's just, it's sad. Or Midland, Odessa, which is like oil derricks everywhere. And it's just, I've never seen such a sad looking place in my life. You know, and all the trash we're putting in the ocean, it's just, so we just need to be more mindful. And, every day that I recycle a frame, every time I, think about, well, maybe I'll reuse this for something, or pass the clothing on to, a place. Those little things add up big. And if everybody would turn the tap off when they're brushing their teeth, it's just simple.
I know, it's just little things like that. Just little things. Or if you're peeing, you don't have to flush it every single time if that's just pee. I mean, at night, in the middle of the night or whatever. But anyway, I know that is crude, but I'm just saying we have to be mindful and be selective about, yeah, you kill the cockroach, but I'm mindful about.
Towards my foot. Okay.
I would have done the same thing, or I would screamed and run the other way.
Well, I didn't scream. I just tapped it with my shoe.
You just said back to God. And you know what they say about the cockroaches, darling? They ain't going anywhere. They're gonna survive it all.
The bugs will be here. Yeah. It's true. It's true. And it's kind of funny because they're considered the lowest thing, but they're the ones.
They're the most resilient, right?
We think we're so smart. We're not that smart. But we can learn a lot from the story. And that's what we did with Beasts of the Southern Wild. And I hope if people did not see it, they will watch it. And, I've always loved New Orleans and the people and the food and just the fact that they keep their culture. So many people are trying to get rid of it and lose their accents and everything. And I go, I love accents. I love it when people have the costumes and the different things from their countries, and they've got whatever, the henna and the piercings and everything. It fascinates me because how boring would it be if we all looked exactly the same, right?
Right. Wonder Bread Nation.
Well, anyway, next week, I think.
It's not next week, it's next month.
Next month, I think, I have put them up there, and I think the next one we're going to watch is a brand new movie. I think it's either Edward Scissorhands, which I think is the next month.
Oh, okay.
But I think we're going to be watching RRR, which is now being considered by all critics in all countries one of the most magnificent films ever made. So far, just this year, but I'm thinking maybe ever.
The reviews are incredible. I am going to watch it for sure.
Everybody I've sent to watch it comes back and said, I can't believe that movie was that long, and I just sat through the edge of my seat. But if you like it, the same director did two other films. That one was there were two of them. They were a sequel. They are Babulu. It's a weird word, but it's like a mythological proportion. And at no point does it ever become, to me, ludicrous. And the most fantastic dance scenes I've ever seen in any film in my life, including.
I will watch it. So that's the first Sunday in August will be RRR. Is that right?
I think RRR is next, and I think then in August. I think I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
But Edward Scissorhands, I think, is August because that's my birthday month. And I love that movie so much.
We're gonna have a good talk about that.
Yeah.
I will be on the road on July 3rd. So
well, watch the film anyway, because you are going to.
Oh, I'm going to. It's on my list.
But sure. You did like Downton Abbey. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, honey, I went by myself. I went to a movie theater by myself. There was nobody in the movie theater but me because I went during the day. And I don't want to go in a crowded theater with the COVID going on. So I went by myself. There was no one in the big theater. And I just watched, and then at the end I just cried and cried and cried. It was the end of an era, right?
I hope it goes on because I'm invested in these characters and in their children. I want to see if Mary really becomes like Maggie, if she becomes
Maggie
like her grand.
Smith.
I think she will, because there was this guy that was coming into her view, and she realized that he was pretty attractive, but she took the high road. And
For now, we'll see.
we'll
I
see.
think that Julian Fellows, he may keep going with it. He may keep going. I hope so.
I hope
But there
so.
were so much, what I loved about it, I will tell you, that every character, and I'm trying to do this in the novel, I'm brainstorming, and someday we'll get finished. Anyway, but how every character from the littlest servant up had a growth trajectory. They all changed.
And when they got to do that scene in the film, where they filmed the film,
I know.
from silent to talkie, I was just like, oh my God, this is everything. I love to watch that. That time period is my favorite time. If I could go back in time, I would go back to that time. Before the Depression. I don't want I want to be there. My grandparents.
Right. That's right. Well, my darling, this was wonderful. I'm so glad you had us watch this film, and it's always so good to see you. I miss you.
I do too. And I hope it's really hot here right now, but my kitty's laying beside me and it's kind of calmed down. But I'm home this week, and then who knows what'll happen. My cousin's coming in here tomorrow to visit me. She emailed me and she said, hey, I'm here with my friends here in Florida, and we thought we'd swing by your house on the way home. They live in Kansas. And I go, like, well, it takes 2 days to get from where you are at. She goes, yeah, well, we're going to go so far and go to a beach, and then we'll be there Monday. I go, okay, you guys are road warriors. They've hit like 12 beaches. And
well, I hope they have a good time. You have the most beautiful, unlikely cabin in the woods, and you have nature all around you, and you have beauty all around you inside. And I just think your art it blows me out of the water. What you're doing, it just blows me out of the water.
I've got some new developments on that too, so I'll share those when they become concrete. But yeah,
because oh my God, I mean, I always I'm a fan.
I know.
But I'm watching something happen.
It really. I was just explaining it to Carol Dawson, is my artist friend that I went to her gallery show in her hometown of Corsicana. She lives in Austin, has forever, but they invited her back for kind of a show, and she does the most beautiful watercolors. In fact, I have one of them that I brought home with me, a glisse. I couldn't afford the original great big ones, but I was telling her, and she said, I am following your art, and it is, I've never seen anything like it.
I haven't either.
And I said, gosh, coming from you, Carol, because she's been in galleries. She's in a gallery, a big gallery in Austin. But it's always nice to be told that people like, but it doesn't matter anymore to me whether people like what I'm doing or not. I know this is what I'm supposed to do.
Oh, I love the dimensionality.
Right, Tiger. You tell them, baby.
Oh, I love the dimensionality. I love the multimedia. I love the subject matter. I love the story inside each painting. I love making up the stories that I see in the paintings. So don't stop. Keep it up.
And you keep working on your book too. So
on both my books, I think definitely by September Loving the Unlovable will be done. And then I can really focus, after Girlfriend Weekend, I'm going to really be focusing on the novel then. But I
Now,
am
if you
focused, I'm
get-
working on the novel every week, but mostly I'm just charting out the structure of it.
Now, are you coming to Girlfriend Weekend?
Of course I am. And I won don't you remember I
That's
did
right.
that?
I need to send you your letter. I have, I did that right before I went to Dallas. I was sending them out and I'm thinking, who have I missed? Who have I missed? So, okay, I'll get it to you.
Me and Robert, we won the sexy read thing.
Yeah, Robert's coming. He's gonna. It might even be picking him up. I don't know. We're caravanning.
I can't wait to meet him in person. My gosh.
When Mandy and him finally got to meet, it was just like, Mandy goes, I can't wait to meet you. I'm just going to hug you. And I go, well, here we go.
I'm going to be there, and whatever's happening, I'm going to be there.
Okay, well, it's going to be fantastic. I'm going in on Thursday because Mandy's putting together a bunch of things for us to do. That it's Dutch treat, but we're going to go on a boat ride, and she's got this fabulous Pulpwood place she wants to take us to, and she's going to take, we're just going to caravan together and just go all over.
Yeah, and I think that the idea that Girlfriend Weekend is going to be like, not just we're going to learn, we're going to immerse ourselves, but it's going to be a vacation too. And man, in January in Chicago, I need a vacation.
Somebody said, well, I'm taking 2 weeks vacation in summer. I go, I'm going to be taking about that long in January. So I'm just waiting for that day when I can go there. In the meantime, it's just family stuff.
And I'm hearing too, it's supposed to be beautiful. I've said it's at Amelia Island. They're going, it's gorgeous there. So
she said it is. The weather doesn't get really bad until February or March. And it's the same way here in Texas. I mean, we didn't have bad weather when you came, did we? It was cold.
No, I didn't. I wore a light little jacket one night. That's all.
That's why I moved here. And then it's usually February, March, we get the ice storms and that stuff. So,
you know what? The violin music is playing.
Okay.
I live in Chicago, girl.
I know what that's like. I
live in Alaska.
You'll blow away in Chicago.
All right, darling. I'll see you in August.
Cheers, drinking my coffee, and I will see you soon. And anytime you want to call me, check in. So bye everybody in movie land. Go to the calendar events and see which movie we're watching for the month of July. It is 4th of July weekend, but I'm always home. So if you can't discuss it with me, at least watch the film. So
I'm going to watch it. And you know what I might do? I might send you a little email with some of my ideas about it.
Okay. That's good. That's really good. Or maybe we can pre-tape it. Thing is, I'm going to a wedding and we're going to be moving from one place to another. Well, just send me stuff.
I will. All right, darling.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
I love you. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. It's all about the story. Bye.